Hello, good evening. My name is Debbie Jacobs, and I am a a life coach. And what I coach on is a healing process that I created that helped me to accomplish healing out of depression, anxiety, and bipolar into my authentic self, the self I was meant to be. I'm totally just me, Debbie Jacobs. And the reason that I ended up in depression, anxiety, and bipolar is not that there was anything wrong with me. Nothing physical, biological, nothing in my brain. I am a functioning human being. But I did develop over the course of my childhood ineffective thinking and ineffective coping skills. And it was the combination of that um, led me to depression, anxiety, and bipolar. And actually, what I say is that depression, anxiety, and bipolar is the sum of all my flaws. So there actually was nothing ever, wrong with the way that my brain was processing things. My brain was processing things accurately. If somebody did something to me that violated my boundaries, I got angry at them. And we can't control other people's actions. They are the ones that have to be responsible for how they treat us. But how are we taught how to treat each other? Through family, through, what our parents do, and through our siblings. And basically, everything that I ended up doing, behavior wise, thought wise, was a culmination of my experiences. And I grew up in an abusive household where, it became a house of abuse. And living in a house of abuse, is not healthy for children. So, and let me tell you something. I had a therapist. I've had actually, a lot of therapists that make a correlation between abuse and mental illness. Now, let me tell you something. I am here to address that. I'll call it mental illness, but it is not mental illness. There's nothing wrong with the brain. And we overlook the obvious. We focus on what's not right, but we miss all that is right, all the good. So how can I have a diagnosis of mental illness where there's something wrong with my brain, but I also have a master's degree. I also was a manager, in an HR department. I live independently. I am self-sufficient. I am responsible. I had a lot of good qualities about myself. I had a good work ethic. I had anger problems. I had anxiety. I had fear. I had insecurity. I had worry. I had abandonment issues. I had trust issues. I had inferiority complex. Let's break down what they are calling an illness and a disease. I didn't have abandonment issues because I had a disease. I had a disease diagnosis because I had abandonment issues and trust issues and everything else, and my anger problems. But all of that is taught, directly or indirectly. And indirectly is reactionary. Anger is reactionary. Fear is reactionary. Insecurity is reactionary. Like jealousy is reactionary. And when we have too many negative, ineffective coping skills, negative behaviors, we are overloaded with negativity. And guess what? That can lead to depression, right? That can lead to bipolar. Bipolar is a component, or has a component of depression in it, and mania. And mania, I will tell you, I feel stem from a lack of self care, like major, self care. A lot of people don't sleep. A lot of people don't eat. Even breathing. A lot of people have, don't develop, an effective flow, that, I mean, I remember I used to find myself holding my breath a lot. That's just my way of going through my day to day. I wasn't breathing normally. Even that can be, or, not keeping myself calm, but keeping calm and having, a regular breath is really important, just like eating regularly and sleeping. Sleep is so important. And if we are not operating to serve our highest good, we can really end up running ourselves into breakdown, having stress. We stress about things that makes it worse and adds, negativity to the situation. Got to learn how to stop stressing. You don't have to stress about something just because something is going on. Stop worry, stop fear. So, it is, all a part of managing ourself. And let me tell you something, the healing process is self mastery. So when you have mastery of self, you're not going to have, all these mental problems, because the mental problems stem from the lack of, skills, communication skills, social skills, interpersonal skills, patience. It's like we are not serving our highest good. Self sabotage. What do we need self sabotage for? Self sabotage creates unhappiness for us, shoots us in the foot. Is that a mental illness? No, that's not mental illness. That is an ineffective coping skill. That's a learned behavior, And where do you think children learn to self sabotage? Is somebody getting in their way? And they are learning, to operate with getting themselves in their way. But this is not something like cancer or diabetes, because if we dismantle our behaviors, that's healing and that's our authenticity. It's a lot of behaviors to go through. We have a lot of negativity embedded in our behaviors. So it's no wonder that mental illness is rising in our youth. But is it something that people are born with? Why would God create man to have negative thoughts and anger problems and fear and anxiety? People believe that that's a disease. People don't know how the mind works, and they're overlooking the obvious. The obvious is our thoughts are generating all of that, not our brain. So our mind was programmed, and it can be reprogrammed. It's not easy, but it can be done. And that entails learning new ways of being, new behaviors. Going from behaviors that don't serve you to behaviors that do serve you. Behaviors that you developed in childhood that you don't need for life, but you have for life, and you get rid of them in your healing, like your mental illness. And people don't know this. They don't know that it's an option, that we can make change to everything that we do. But people are so resistant and adamant against change. That's so annoying. I can't tell you how that sucks. But basically, we can make positive change. So if we change our thoughts and our behaviors, and we accomplish the spiritual awakening and our beautiful authentic self, then what happened to the disease? What happened to the illness? And what sucks is that a lot of people think it is a disease, it is an illness, and they believe that they're stuck with it. So they don't even try. They don't try to work on themselves, because they think they can't. Their brain won't let them. And let me tell you something. That was an oversight with me because I was focusing on making, I wanted happiness and love in my life. I knew that I was standing in my way. I had depression, anxiety, and bipolar. But I said to myself, you know what? I am going to work on myself until I no longer stand in my way. And I didn't even think about mental illness. And if I did, maybe I wouldn't have even tried because I would have thought, well, I'm stuck with this too. Although when I was diagnosed, to be quite honest, it did raise an eyebrow. It did raise an eyebrow when I was diagnosed bipolar. That I had gone through a lot of pain. I went through a lot in my life, and now I have bipolar. Could that be a coincidence? You know. So even then, I had like I just I remember being like, okay, everything that I went through, and I get depression, anxiety, and bipolar. That seems obvious to me. You know what I mean? I went through a lot of abuse, and that's why I speak out against abuse. We have to stop abuse in childhood across the board. For everyone, everywhere. That's the goal. And also get abuse out of relationships. I mean, believe it or not, I'm 47 years old and I still am in abusive relationships with my siblings. Like the same dynamic my whole life that started in childhood and lasted the last 20 years. And I believe that also was a factor in my own mental illness and was a factor in my healing too, by the way. And now I speak out and I share information, to address the possibility that we could live in our happiness, that we could live in freedom, that people living in mental illness, can live in their authentic self. They are not in their authentic self. They are not their best version of self. Depression, anxiety, and bipolar was not my best version of self. Myself, Debbie Jacobs, is my best version of self. And this is it. That's all you're going to get. But I'm operating with positive thoughts, positive, effective coping skills, and healthy self esteem. No mental illness, no disease, no, no depression, no bipolar. And I have been operating like this for over 3 years. I did my healing from 2010 to 2015. I worked 5 years, $300,000. And it was all about self improvement as life improvement. I got out of therapy, out of group therapy, out of DBT, out of, like whatever. I still saw my psychiatrist through the period of 2010 to 2015 because I was still on medication until I finished the process. But I got, I wasn't working with a psychologist anymore. And let me tell you something. What I achieved in 5 years, working on my own with life coaches and reading books and going to seminars and retreats and workshops and going and googling things and audio programs. I mean, I really did a pretty good job, healing my pain and learning new effective ways of being. I accomplished more in 5 years, more than I ever could imagine, than I did in over, like 13 years in therapy. I started with unhealed pain, low self esteem, anger problems, insecurity, and I left 13 years later with anger problems, insecurity, low self esteem, unhealed pain. I got zero out of therapy. Therapy was like stirring peas on a plate. It's just like stirring around, not doing anything. And actually it got to the point where my life got worse and I was like, I really need, I needed more support, guidance, direction than therapy could offer, than group therapy and DBT could offer. I was like going like 5 days a week. I was in a lot of therapy and I started going to hypnosis. And then, I met a life coach. The hypnotist was a life coach, and she turned me on to healing and working on myself and making positive change. I could have done that 12 years ago. I didn't need to go through therapy. I needed to learn effective ways of being because I didn't. And kids aren't. Not just me, it's not just my dad. I met this person who had abandonment, who had an inferiority complex. I'm like, you have an inferiority complex? So do I. Did my dad raise you? And let me tell you something. I love my dad. I'm not blaming my dad. My dad had his unhealed pain, and that's how pain gets passed down. And me and my sister ended up in mental illness, and my other siblings ended up abusive. I met another girl who had abandonment issues. I said, "Why do you have abandonment issues?" And I have abandonment issues. What's going on here that we both have abandonment issues? What's going on? That people are ending up with all these negative flaws and mental illness diagnosis from parenting practices. Where else would it come from? So I'm really trying to dispel and prove that everything that we know is wrong, and it takes being wrong to make positive change. So I'm out here doing videos and posting on Facebook. If you're interested, please contact me, because my objective is to help people out of their pain. We cannot live in the negativity of our pain when we could be living in the positivity of freedom and happiness. So, all right, that's my live for the evening. I hope that everybody has a good night, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.